Over the past 100 years, approximately 1,600 people have disappeared without a trace in America's national parks. The national parks are also home to some of the largest and most unexplored cave systems in the world. A man pops a tape into a tape recorder.
My name is David Frie. 5 years ago, my brother, Nolan, went missing in Rocky Mountain National Park. He and his friends went on a hiking trip for the weekend, and they never came back. It was a tough time for me and my family. Nolan and I were close, but the worst part is, I know there's more to his disappearance than what we were told. Nolan vanished without a trace, but his 4 friends' bodies were all found, hundreds of miles apart from each other. The government wouldn't let anyone see their bodies either. God damn it, what are they hiding? Well, enough is enough. I'm going back to the national park, and I'm not leaving until I get answers.
David leaves for the national park and arrives after a long drive through the mountains. He passes through the front gate and stops his car in front of a huge log cabin, the ranger station. He enters the building and walks up to the desk, where a park ranger sits.
Good afternoon.
Hey, how you doing? I'm looking to set up camp for the weekend.
Sounds good. I'll grab a map for you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Can I get a name so I can put you down in our system?
Sure. It's, Thomas Gray.
The ranger stares at him for a second, almost slightly perplexed, then types the name into the system and goes back to his more cheery personality.
Okay, appreciate it, Thomas. Name's Carl Watkins, by the way. Nice to meet you. I'm going to set you up at Site D with a couple other campers nearby. Just drive down that road and follow the signs. You'll find it. If you need anything, give me a call. Station's number is on the back of your map.
Thanks. I'll be on my way now.
Oh, and by the way, we don't got a lot of rules around here. But please, whatever you do, always stay on the trails. And don't leave your camp late at night. Now you have a good one, Mr. Gray.
He arrives at camp. There are a few other people set up in tents and even a family in an RV. After he has finished setting up the rest of his camp, he climbs into his tent and takes out his tape recorder again.
So, obviously Thomas Gray isn't my real name. If the park is covering up my brother's disappearance, which I'm sure they are, I can't use my real name while I'm here. I bet the ranger knows I'm not who I say I am. I'm probably even being watched right now. Doesn't matter. I need to find out what happened to Nolan. Tonight, I'll sneak into the ranger station to see if I can find anything.
A few hours later, David slips a backpack over his shoulder and exits his tent. He gets into his car and drives into the woods, heading to the ranger station. He stops his car and turns it off. Then he reaches into his glove compartment and pulls out a pistol. He pushes on until he is in a moonlit clearing about 100 yards or so from the station. Then he stops. The forest has gone completely silent. No animals can be heard. An eerie feeling washes over David. He realizes he is not alone. He turns around and he sees it. An elk standing at the edge of the clearing. Something seems not quite right about this elk, however. The darkness makes it hard to make out all the details, but the creature seems very skinny, almost sickly. Then, the beast suddenly stands on its hind legs and stomps out into the clearing. Moonlight washes over it, revealing every horrifying detail. It is a grotesque abomination with features of both man and beast. It has the head of an elk with a pair of antlers, but a human-like bipedal body. Its front limbs are long and lanky, with sharp-clawed hands instead of hooves. Its skin also seems like it's wasting away, with parts of its skull and ribcage and even a beating heart exposed to open air. Then it charges at David on all fours. He rapidly fires his pistol at it, and every shot hits but seemingly has no effect. It lashes out its arm and slams into David, knocking him a good 10 feet back. Then, out of nowhere, a shotgun blast hits the creature in the side of the head. It's the ranger from earlier that day. He lights a flare and the beast suddenly jumps back.
Go on! Get out of here, you freak! You all right?
I'll live.
Well, David Frie, it looks like I have no choice but to tell you everything.
Figured you knew. Now, start talking. What the hell was that thing?
Well, that, my friend, was a Wendigo. Ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
It's an ancient creature from Native American legend. A flesh-eating monster that stalks the woods at night. The stories go back thousands of years to the Algonquin tribes that used to inhabit this region. They said that any man who resorted to cannibalism would be cursed by an evil spirit and turned into that abomination. When I first heard of it, I figured it was just a campfire story to scare children. But as you can see, it's much more than that.
How long have you known about this?
Well, I've had a few encounters during my time here. Let me tell you, there's a long and very complicated history between the Wendigos and the national parks. You know who founded the national park system?
Teddy Roosevelt.
Bingo. One thing about Roosevelt was he was an explorer and a big game hunter. Any rare creature out there, he wanted to find it and shoot it. Then he learns about the Wendigo, the apex predator. They're hunting people all across the country and hiding out in the cave systems under the mountains. Teddy sets aside big areas of federal land so that the government can try and keep them contained and hidden from the public eye. I'd bet there's at least one of those things in about every national park in America.
Why are the national parks open to the public then if these things live in them?
Well, you shut down big areas of federal land, people start to ask questions. Plus, you know how much money the national parks bring in? It's just American capitalism for you. We do our best to try and keep that thing fed so that it stays in the caves and won't hunt our guests. But there's only so much we can do, and they're responsible for most all of the national park disappearances, including your brother and his 4 friends. For what it's worth, I am sorry.
I don't need your sympathy. It won't bring Nolan back.
I understand, but I'm guessing you can see why we had to keep this hidden. People find out cannibalistic monsters are roaming the national parks, and a nationwide panic would ensue.
Fine. So, what now?
Well, that's the closest this thing has ever gotten to a civilized area, and that worries me. I think it's high time we rid the park of this thing.
I want to come with you.
You're a civilian. It's not safe.
Thing is, you don't have a choice.
David pulls out his tape recorder.
Wendigos, national parks, everything you just said, I got it all on tape. And I'm more than happy to go public with this.
After some time, the 2 men hike through the woods accompanied by the Army Rangers. Eventually, they reach the mouth of a giant cave next to a waterfall. The Army Ranger commander signals to one of his men, who is carrying a steel container. The soldier hurries out from behind cover, places the box on the cave floor, and opens it. It contains fresh meat. About a minute passes, and the Wendigo reaches the bait. Then the soldiers spring the trap. David leaps out from behind cover too and charges forward, firing his rifle. But the Wendigo lunges forward and knocks David to the ground. Then he feels his body being dragged across the ground and deep into the darkness of the cave. David wakes up in a huge chamber of the cavern. As his eyes adjust to the darkness, he sees the silhouette of the Wendigo feasting on an animal carcass. He scans the environment, looking for any sort of escape, but finds none. Out of options, David lights his flare. Then David gets a good look at the Wendigo's eyes. The eyes are human. They're Nolan's eyes. The realization washes over David. Nolan is the Wendigo.
Hey, Nolan. I'm glad to see you. But I can't let you suffer like this.
David reaches up and stabs the flare into the heart of the Wendigo. David collapses on the ground, depleted of all energy. Soon enough, the Army Rangers enter the cave, with Carl accompanying them. Carl makes his way over to David.
Hey, kid.
David looks up. He sees the barrel of Carl's rifle pointed at him.
I'm sorry. We can't have any witnesses.